My name is Amanda Turner, and I am 24 years old. For my entire life, I was the perfect daughter, excelling at everything to earn my parents' approval. With my background in financial services and tech skills, I thought I had secured their love. I expected my birthday to be special, at least a nice dinner with family. Instead, my father looked me in the eyes and said, "You are nothing but a burden." That night, they kicked me out with nowhere to go. So I used what I knew best, their finances, and froze their credit cards. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how my revenge unfolded. I grew up in Oakwood Heights, an affluent suburban neighborhood where success was measured by the size of your house and the brand of your car. My parents, Gerald and Diane Turner, fit right in with their pristine lawn luxury vehicles and carefully curated social image. From the outside, we were the picture-perfect American family. Behind closed doors, their love came with conditions. "Amanda, a 98% is not good enough," my father would say, pushing aside my test paper. "The Henderson's daughter got 100. What is wrong with you?" My mother would add, "We only want what is best for you, sweetheart. Your father and I sacrificed so much to give you opportunities." Their version of best meant I had to excel at everything. So I did. I graduated as valedictorian with a perfect 4.0 GPA. My high school yearbook listed so many achievements under my photo that they had to use a smaller font: debate team captain, concert pianist, president of the volunteer society, editor of the school newspaper. What the yearbook did not show were the nights I stayed up until 3 in the morning studying, the birthday parties I missed, the friendships that withered because I never had time to nurture them. It did not show me crying in the bathroom after getting a B+ on a chemistry quiz, the only B of my high school career. My parents did not speak to me for 3 days after that. "We are not angry," my mother said finally, "just disappointed." Somehow, their disappointment hurt more than anger ever could. When it came time for college, I chose finance because my father said it was practical. "Art history is for people who do not need to earn a living," he told me, when I mentioned my interest in it. So, I buried that dream and followed his path instead. I graduated summa cum laude from an Ivy League university. My parents attended my graduation, of course, taking plenty of photos to share with their country club friends. "Our daughter, the finance whiz," they bragged. But when I landed a job at Preston and Harrington, one of the most prestigious financial firms in the city, my father only said, "Entry level, I thought you would aim higher." Despite my salary being quite good for a recent graduate, I continued living at home. Why waste money on rent, my parents reasoned. Save up for a down payment on a house in a good neighborhood. It made financial sense, so I agreed. I contributed to household expenses, did more than my share of chores, and still managed to excel at my demanding job. The criticism never stopped, though. If I came home late from work, my mother would remark, "The Wilson's daughter cooks dinner for her family every night, even with her job." If I spent a weekend catching up on sleep, my father would say, "Lazy people never get ahead in life, Amanda." My cousin Heather was the only one who saw through the facade. During a family gathering, she cornered me in the kitchen. "How do you stand it?" she whispered, glancing toward the living room where my parents were holding court. "The way they talk to you, it is not normal, Amanda." I shrugged, arranging deviled eggs on a platter. "They want me to succeed." "No," Heather insisted, "they want to control you. There is a difference." I changed the subject, but her words lingered. Was there a difference? Had I confused control for love all these years? Around that time, I began noticing signs that something was off with my parents' finances. I overheard hushed arguments about credit card statements. My mother came home with shopping bags from luxury boutiques more frequently, while my father complained about the electric bill being too high. When I offered financial advice, it was my profession after all. They shut me down immediately. "We have been managing money since before you were born," my father snapped. "We do not need advice from a child." I was 24 with a degree in finance, and a job managing millions of dollars in investments hardly a child. But I backed off, continuing my perfect daughter routine while the uneasiness grew. Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. The signs were there: the increasing criticism, the financial stress, the way they began treating me less like a daughter and more like an unwelcome house guest. But I kept believing that if I just tried harder, achieved more, they would finally be proud of me. I kept believing I could earn their unconditional love through perfect performance. I was wrong. My 24th birthday fell on a Tuesday. Nothing special about a Tuesday birthday, but I still looked forward to it. I had made reservations at Bellini's, my favorite Italian restaurant. Nothing extravagant, just cozy and familiar. I even bought a new dress with my own money, a simple navy blue wrap dress that I thought looked professional, yet festive. "We will leave at 7, I told my parents that morning before heading to work. My mother nodded absently, scrolling through her phone. My father grunted from behind his newspaper. Not exactly enthusiasm, but I was used to their subdued responses. Work was particularly stressful that day. One of our major clients was threatening to pull their investments, and I spent hours preparing reports to reassure them. By 5:30, my eyes were burning from staring at spreadsheets, but I had managed to address their concerns. My boss even patted me on the shoulder, a rare gesture of approval. "Good save, Turner," he said. "Now go enjoy your birthday." I drove home with a small smile, allowing myself to feel proud of my work. Maybe my parents would be proud too if I mentioned the client save. Maybe tonight would be different. When I pulled into our driveway at 6:15, I noticed both my parents' cars were there. Good, they remembered we had dinner plans. I touched up my makeup in the rearview mirror and headed inside. The shouting hit me as soon as I opened the door. $30,000, Diane. How do you spend $30,000 in 3 months? Do not act innocent. Gerald, I saw the charges for your golf trip to Phoenix. I froze in the entryway, keys still in hand. My parents stood in the living room, facing off like boxers. My mother's mascara was smeared under her eyes, and my father's face was an alarming shade of red. "Mom, Dad," I said cautiously. "Is everything okay?" They both turned to me, as if just noticing my presence. Something in their expressions made me take a step back. "Amanda," my father said, his voice suddenly controlled. Too controlled. "Good. We need to talk about your living situation." "My living situation," I repeated. "Can it wait until after dinner? Our reservation is at 7 and..." "Dinner." My father laughed, a harsh sound, nothing like his usual laugh. "You think we are going to celebrate while we are drowning in debt? While you live here rent-free, eating our food, using our electricity?" I blinked, confused. "I contribute $500 every month for household expenses." We agreed on that amount when... $500? My mother interrupted. "Do you have any idea what it actually costs to live in this neighborhood? The property taxes alone are $15,000 a year." I did not know you were having financial difficulties," I said carefully. "You never mentioned." "Because it is none of your business," my father shouted. "We are not answering to our own daughter about our spending." "I never asked you to," I said, feeling increasingly uneasy. "Look, we can skip dinner if money is tight right now. I can help more with expenses if..." "Help?" My father's voice dropped dangerously low. "How can you help when you are the problem? Do you know what our friends think, seeing a grown woman still living with her parents? The Morgan's son bought his own house at 23. The Patel's daughter is a doctor already. And what are you? An entry-level number cruncher who cannot even afford her own apartment." Each word felt like a physical blow. I struggled to keep my voice steady. "I could afford an apartment. You both suggested I stay here to save money. And now we are suggesting you leave," my mother said, crossing her arms. "It is time you stood on your own 2 feet." I looked from one to the other, waiting for some sign that this was a bizarre joke. Today, On my birthday. My father stepped closer, looming over me. You have 1 hour to pack your essentials. Starting next week, your rent is $2,000 a month if you want to continue living here. $2,000 was nearly half my take-home pay after taxes. That is more than market rate for a one-bedroom apartment in this area. I said, my financial training kicking in despite my shock. Then, go find a one-bedroom apartment, my father sneered. See how the real world works. I cannot believe this is happening, I whispered, tears finally spilling over. Why are you doing this? That was when he said it. The words that would change everything between us forever. Because you are nothing but a burden, Amanda. You always have been. My mother did not contradict him. She just stood there, arms still crossed, lips pressed together. In that moment, I saw them clearly for perhaps the first time. These were not parents who had pushed me to excel out of love. They had used me, molded me into a trophy they could display when convenient, and now that they faced financial problems of their own making, I was suddenly expendable. I walked upstairs in a daze, pulled out my suitcase, and began packing with mechanical movements. Clothes, toiletries, important documents. My hands shook so badly I dropped my hairbrush twice. Downstairs I could hear them still arguing, but now about which of their luxury credit cards to cut up first. They had never intended to go to dinner with me. My birthday had not even registered as important. With trembling fingers I called Heather. Hey, birthday girl, she answered cheerfully. Can I stay with you tonight? I asked, my voice breaking. My parents just kicked me out. What, are you serious? Of course you can stay here. What happened? I will explain when I get there, I said, unable to rehash it all while still in their house. Thank you, Heather. I ended the call and looked around my childhood bedroom one last time. The debate trophies, the honor roll certificates, the framed photo of me with the governor when I won the state economics competition, all proof of my desperate attempts to be good enough. I left them all behind, taking only what would fit in one suitcase and a backpack. As I walked out the front door, neither of my parents looked up from their argument about the credit card bill. 24 years of being their daughter, and they could not even say goodbye. Heather's apartment was small, a one-bedroom in a converted Victorian house downtown. She insisted I take her bed while she slept on the couch. I cannot kick you out of your own bed, I protested weakly, sitting on the edge of her colorful quilt with my suitcase still by the door. You did not kick me out of anywhere, Heather said firmly. Unlike some people I could mention. She handed me a mug of hot chocolate. Now, tell me what happened. The story poured out of me in messy, tear-filled bursts. The argument I had walked into, the shocking demand for rent, the burden comment that kept echoing in my head. By the time I finished, the hot chocolate had gone cold, and Heather was sitting beside me, her arm around my shoulders. Those absolute monsters, she whispered. On your birthday, no less. Maybe they are right, I said, staring into my mug. Maybe I should have moved out years ago, been more independent. Stop that right now, Heather said sharply. They encouraged you to stay home, then punished you for it. That is classic manipulation, Amanda. This is not your fault. I wanted to believe her, but 24 years of conditioning does not disappear in one night. I kept thinking there must have been something I could have done differently. Sleep was impossible. I laid awake in Heather's bed, replaying the evening over and over. Around 3 a.m, I gave up and made a list of what I needed to do. Find an apartment, create a new budget, buy basic necessities that I had left behind. The next morning I went to work as if nothing had happened. I wore the navy blue dress I had bought for my birthday dinner, applied extra concealer to hide my puffy eyes, and walked into the office with my shoulders back. How was your birthday? My colleague Jasmine asked, stopping by my desk with coffee. Fine, I said automatically. Then, surprising myself, I added, actually, no. It was terrible. My parents kicked me out. Jasmine's eyes widened. What? Why? Once again, I found myself explaining the inexplicable. Jasmine listened without interrupting, then set her coffee down decisively. Let me get this straight. Your parents kicked you out because they are bad with money, and somehow that is your fault. Put that way, it did sound absurd. Essentially, yes. That is messed up, Jasmine said. Where are you staying? With my cousin, but I need to find my own place fast. I cannot impose on her. I know some decent buildings in Riverside, Jasmine offered. Not fancy, but safe and reasonably priced. We could look after work if you want. Her kindness nearly broke me again. Thank you. That would be really helpful. During my lunch break, I checked my bank account to assess my finances. What I saw made my stomach drop. The joint savings account my parents and I had set up when I was 16, the one where I had been depositing 20% of every paycheck since college, was empty. Every last penny gone. With shaking hands, I called the bank. I am showing a withdrawal of $22,418.37 made yesterday at 4:13 p.m. The bank representative told me the withdrawal was made in person at the Oakwood Heights branch. Yesterday, while I was saving a client account at work, my parents were emptying our joint savings. They must have known they were going to kick me out. They had planned it. Was the withdrawal made by Gerald or Diane Turner? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, Gerald Turner presented ID and the required account information. I thanked the representative and hung up feeling numb. $22,000, my emergency fund, my future apartment deposit, my safety net gone in an instant. I made it through the rest of the workday somehow. After hours, Jasmine drove me to Riverside, a neighborhood about 20 minutes from downtown. It was nothing like the manicured streets of Oakwood Heights. The buildings were older, the cars more modest, the stores more practical than fashionable. The blue building has studios available, Jasmine said, pointing to a 5-story walk-up. My friend lived there last year. The landlord is decent, and they have secure entry. The studio apartment we viewed was tiny, maybe 400 square feet total. A galley kitchen opened to a main room that would serve as living room, dining room, and bedroom combined. The bathroom was clean but dated with cracked tiles from the 1970s. It is $750 per month, utilities included, the building manager said. First and last month due at signing, plus a security deposit of $500. $2,000 up front. After my parents' theft, I had exactly $3,422.16 to my name, my checking account, and the cash in my wallet. I could afford this place, but just barely. There would be nothing left for furniture, dishes, or other necessities. I will take it, I said. 3 days later, I moved in with my suitcase, a second-hand mattress Jasmine helped me find on an online marketplace, and a few kitchen essentials from the dollar store. Heather contributed some towels and bedding. My new home was sparse but mine. That first night alone in my studio, reality hit hard. I sat on my mattress on the floor, eating ramen from a plastic bowl, and finally allowed myself to fall apart completely. I cried until my throat was raw and my eyes swollen. For the perfect daughter I had tried to be. For the unconditional love I never received. For the betrayal that should not have surprised me but somehow still did. My phone buzzed with a text. My father, we need your signature on some insurance documents. Come by the house tomorrow. No acknowledgement of what they had done, no apology, just a demand as if nothing had changed. I did not respond. The next day brought another text, this time from my mother. Do not ignore your father. These documents are important. Again, I did not respond. The third day, you are being childish, Amanda. This is exactly why we needed space from you. Your emotional immaturity is exhausting. That one hurt. Even now they were twisting the narrative, making me the villain in their story. I blocked their numbers. At Jasmine's suggestion, I made an appointment with a therapist through my company's employee assistance program. Dr. Martin was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. What your parents did constitutes financial abuse, she told me in our first session. Taking your savings, demanding excessive rent, making you financially vulnerable. These are control tactics, not parenting. But I am an adult, I said. Should not I have been more responsible with my money, more independent? Were you secretive about your finances? They knew exactly how much I made and saved. Did you refuse to contribute to household expenses? I paid the agreed amount every month without fail. Did you spend extravagantly while neglecting responsibilities? I am actually quite frugal. Dr. Martin leaned forward. Then what exactly were you supposed to have done differently, Amanda? I had no answer for that. The problem is not your behavior, she continued gently. The problem is that your parents conditioned you to believe their love depends on your performance. When their financial situation deteriorated through no fault of yours, they needed someone to blame. You were the convenient target. For the first time, I considered that, maybe, just maybe, I was not the one who had failed. 3 weeks after moving into my studio, I was reviewing documents for a client's portfolio restructuring when something clicked. The client wanted to consolidate several accounts requiring various authorizations and password resets. As I guided them through the process, a memory surfaced. 2 years ago, my father had asked me to set up online banking for their accounts. You understand all this computer nonsense, he had said, handing me their account information. Make it simple so your mother can use it. I had created their profiles, set up their passwords, linked their accounts, and shown them how to navigate the systems. My father had nodded impatiently through my tutorial while my mother took careful notes. Will the bank send alerts if there are unusual charges, she had asked. Yes, but you need to specify how you want to receive them, email, text, or both. Both, my father had decided. I do not want any surprises on my statements. I paused over the client documents in front of me. Did my parents ever change those initial passwords I had set up? They were not particularly tech-savvy, and they had used the same passwords for everything for years, combinations of their anniversary date and our address. After work alone in my studio, I opened my laptop. What I was considering felt wrong, invasive. But they had invaded my life by taking my savings without warning. They had invaded my sense of security by making me homeless overnight. Did I not deserve to know if they had planned this betrayal all along? I navigated to their bank's website and entered my father's username, his email address. For the password, I tried the standard combination he used everywhere. Oakwood 1225, our house number, followed by their anniversary month and day. Access granted. My heart raced as I navigated through their accounts. What I found shocked me. Credit card debt spread across 6 different cards totaling over $70,000. Their mortgage was 2 months behind. There were multiple overdraft fees on their checking account. But what really caught my attention were the recent purchases. The day after they kicked me out, the day after my birthday, there was a charge from Bellini's, my favorite restaurant, for $187.22. The same restaurant where I had made reservations for us. They had gone without me. On my birthday. After telling me they could not afford to celebrate, I dug deeper, scanning months of statements, designer clothes, golf club memberships, weekend getaways, all while claiming financial hardship, all while stealing my savings and making me homeless. The final betrayal was a charge from the previous day, $2,300 at Winston Jewelers, my mother's favorite jewelry store where she bought herself little treats when she was feeling down. I sat back stunned. They were not in financial trouble because of me. They were in financial trouble because they lived beyond their means, accumulated massive debt, and refused to adjust their lifestyle. I was just a convenient scapegoat. As I was processing this discovery, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from my mother, the first contact since I had blocked their numbers. Amanda, your father and I are disappointed by your immature reaction to our reasonable request for appropriate rent. Your silence is childish and disrespectful after all we have done for you. We expect you to apologize and fulfill your family obligations. The insurance documents still need your signature. No mention of my missing savings. No acknowledgement of kicking me out on my birthday. No recognition of the harm they had caused. In my next therapy session, I shared what I had discovered. I could ruin them, I said quietly. With what I know about their finances, I could really hurt them. Dr. Martin regarded me steadily. The question is not whether you could, but whether you should, and more importantly, whether that would help you heal. Does not justice help with healing? Justice and revenge are different things, Amanda. What would justice look like to you in this situation? I thought about it. Them acknowledging what they did, taking responsibility, returning my savings, and revenge. Them suffering like I suffered, feeling helpless and betrayed. I paused. I know how petty that sounds. It sounds human, Dr. Martin corrected. The desire for revenge is natural after betrayal, but acting on it often keeps us tethered to the very people we need to break free from. Her words made sense, but as I left her office, another email came through from my father. Your continued disrespect is unacceptable. We raised you better than this. If you do not respond by Friday, we will be forced to take further action regarding the joint accounts and family matters. It was a threat thinly veiled, and suddenly I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I did not want to break any laws. Despite everything, I did not want to commit fraud or identity theft. But I did want my parents to experience consequences for their actions, real, meaningful consequences that might make them think twice about how they had treated me. I spent an evening researching my options. As an authorized user on several of their accounts, and with legitimate access to their online banking, I discovered I could take certain actions without crossing legal lines. First, I made a list of all their credit cards, the 6 I could see in their online accounts. Then I noted which ones were used most frequently based on the statements. The American Express card my mother used for shopping. The Visa my father used for business dinners and golf. The MasterCard they both used for everyday expenses. My plan was simple but effective. I would call each credit card company as an authorized user with legitimate concerns about unusual activity, requesting a temporary freeze on the accounts pending review. Not a fraud claim that would be illegal, just a security freeze that any authorized user can request. I would also update the contact information for security alerts and account recovery, using email addresses they had access to, but rarely checked. Nothing permanently damaging, just temporarily inconvenient and completely legal. Before proceeding, I created a detailed log of my actions, including times, dates, and the exact nature of my requests. If questioned, I could demonstrate that I had not made false claims or attempted to permanently damage their credit. On Wednesday evening, I began with the American Express card. I called the customer service number listed on their website. Hello, my name is Amanda Turner. I am an authorized user on my parents' American Express account, and I have noticed some unusual activity that concerns me. The representative asked for verification, which I provided truthfully. I am seeing several large purchases that seem out of pattern with their usual spending. I would like to request a temporary freeze on the card until I can discuss this with them. Certainly, Miss Turner. We can place a security hold on the account. This will prevent any new charges until the primary cardholder calls to verify the recent transactions. Would you like us to contact them directly? Yes, please, but I noticed their contact information might be outdated. Can I verify what email and phone number you have on file? I confirmed their primary contact methods, then added a secondary email address. One my father had set up years ago, but rarely checked for account recovery purposes. all done openly as an authorized user with legitimate access. I repeated this process with each card, careful to maintain a concerned tone and stick strictly to the truth. I was concerned about their spending. There were unusual charges. I did want to protect them from potential issues. By midnight, all 6 credit cards were temporarily frozen with security alerts and account recovery options routed to seldom checked secondary email addresses. The freezes would remain in place until my parents contacted each company directly to verify recent transactions. Transactions they might have difficulty explaining or justifying. As I closed my laptop, I felt a mixture of emotions. Satisfaction, yes, but also anxiety. Had I gone too far? Would this make things worse? Would it make any difference at all? I slept poorly that night, waking frequently to check my phone, half expecting angry calls despite having blocked their numbers. The morning brought no messages, but by afternoon I noticed a missed call from my Aunt Karen, my father's sister. I let it go to voicemail. Amanda, your parents are trying to reach you about some credit card issues. Call them immediately. This behavior is unacceptable. So it had begun. The cards had been declined somewhere important enough for them to involve extended family. I did not call back. By evening, emails started arriving, angry, accusatory messages from both parents. "What have you done?" my father wrote. "Fix this immediately, or there will be serious consequences." My mother was more direct. "We know you froze our credit cards. This is theft and fraud. We will report you if you do not undo it by morning." I drafted and deleted several responses before settling on a simple truth. I am an authorized user who noticed unusual spending patterns and requested security reviews, which is within my legal rights. I have documented all my actions. Perhaps this is a good opportunity to discuss the $22,000 you took from our joint account without my knowledge. I heard nothing for 24 hours. Then Heather called. "What did you do to your parents?" she asked, an odd note in her voice. "Why? What happened?" "They showed up at the country club for the Hendersons' anniversary dinner, and their credit card was declined. In front of everyone. Uncle Gerald tried 3 different cards. Aunt Diane was mortified. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt a spark of satisfaction. How terrible for them," I said neutrally. Amanda, Heather said slowly, "Did you have something to do with this?" I explained what I had done and why. To my surprise, Heather laughed. "That is brilliant, completely legal, and exactly what they deserve." Then her tone grew serious. "But be careful. They are telling everyone you hacked their accounts and committed fraud. They are playing the victims hard." "Let them," I said. "I have records of every call I made, every action I took. Nothing I did was illegal. Just be prepared for the family fallout. Aunt Karen is on the warpath." I had expected that. Aunt Karen had always taken my parents' side, dismissing any criticism of them as disrespect. What I had not expected was the email that arrived that night from an unfamiliar address. It was a notification from their Visa card forwarded from the secondary email I had added. "Your card was declined at Winston Jewelers for a purchase of $4,600. Please contact customer service to verify recent transactions and lift the security hold." $4,600 at a jewelry store. While they claimed financial hardship. While they refused to return my savings. The satisfaction I felt was so intense it frightened me a little. This was not just about justice anymore. Part of me was enjoying their discomfort, their public embarrassment, their inability to maintain the facade of wealth and success. Dr. Martin had been right to warn me about revenge. It was seductive, addictive even. I needed to be careful not to lose myself in it. 1 month after freezing my parents' credit cards, I sat in my studio apartment now, furnished with a second-hand couch, a small dining table, and a proper bed frame, and took stock of my situation. I had survived. More than survived, actually. Without the constant pressure to please my parents, I found myself excelling at work in new ways. I had taken on a challenging project that others avoided, restructuring a portfolio for a difficult client with complex needs. The successful outcome had caught my boss's attention. "Turner," he said, stopping by my desk, the Westfield account. "Good work. Very creative solution." "Thank you, sir." "We have a junior analyst position opening up next month. More responsibility, better pay. You should apply." It was the opportunity I had been working towards since joining the firm. "I definitely will." My social life had improved too. Jasmine had introduced me to her friends, a diverse group who accepted me without questioning my credentials or achievements. We met for happy hour on Fridays, something I had always declined when living with my parents. "Networking is more productive than socializing," my father would say. He was wrong about that, as he was wrong about so many things. My parents had made multiple attempts to contact me throughout the month. First came the threats, legal action, police reports, family intervention. When those failed to elicit the response they wanted, they switched to guilt. "After all we have done for you," my mother wrote, "this is how you repay us." What exactly had they done for me? Provided food and shelter, yes, the legal obligation of all parents. But emotionally, they had given conditional approval in place of love, criticism in place of support, and ultimately betrayal when I needed them most. Through family gossip relayed by Heather, I learned about the consequences they faced. My father had been unable to pay for an important business dinner, losing a potential client. My mother had to cancel her co-chairship of the annual charity gala because she could not afford the expected donation. Their country club membership was under review due to late payments. "They are telling everyone it is because of identity theft," Heather reported. "They are not admitting they maxed out their credit cards themselves." Of course they were not. Admitting fault had never been their strong suit. The real confrontation came at my grandmother's 75th birthday gathering. I had considered skipping it to avoid drama, but Grandma Rose had called personally to request my presence. "Family difficulties should not keep you from celebrating with me," she said firmly. "I want all my grandchildren there." So I went, bracing myself for the inevitable. The tension was immediate when I entered my grandparents' home. Conversations paused, heads turned. My parents stood by the fireplace deliberately, not looking my way. Aunt Karen approached first, as expected. "How dare you show your face here after what you have done?" she hissed, quiet enough not to disturb the general party but sharp enough to sting. "Hello to you too, Aunt Karen," I replied calmly. "Happy birthday, Grandma." I called over to my grandmother, who beamed and motioned me over for a hug. Karen followed, unwilling to let it go. "Your parents have been through hell because of your vindictive behavior. Freezing their credit cards, hacking their accounts. I never thought you would stoop so low." I took a deep breath, aware that several relatives were now listening. I did not hack anything. As an authorized user who helped set up their online banking, I requested security reviews due to unusual spending patterns. Everything I did was legal. "You deliberately sabotaged them. They stole $22,000 from me and made me homeless on my birthday." I said, my voice steady. "What would you call that?" Karen faltered. "They... what?" "They emptied our joint savings account without warning, then demanded $2,000 monthly rent with 1 hour's notice to decide. When I could not pay immediately, they kicked me out. On my birthday." The silence around us deepened. My father stepped forward, face flushed. "You are twisting what happened," he said. "We simply asked you to contribute properly to household expenses like any adult should." "I have bank statements showing the withdrawal of my entire savings," I replied, "and text messages showing your ultimatum. Would you like me to share those with the family?" My Uncle Frank, usually quiet at family gatherings, spoke up. "Gerald, is this true? Did you take Amanda's money?" It was a joint account, my father said defensively. Legally, we had every right. That is not what I asked, Frank interrupted. Did you take her savings and kick her out? My mother jumped in. We were having financial difficulties. Amanda was not contributing enough. So, yes, then, Frank said flatly. He turned to me. Your father did the same thing to me when we were younger. Borrowed money for a business opportunity and never repaid it. Said I should be grateful for all he had done for me as my older brother. I stared at him. I had no idea. Of course not. No one talks about it because it would damage the perfect Turner family image. Frank's voice was bitter. I stopped speaking to him for 5 years afterward. More family secrets emerged as the conversation continued. My grandmother revealed that my parents had borrowed money from her pension fund 2 years ago and never repaid it. My cousin Thomas mentioned the business loan my father had guaranteed for him, then backed out of at the last minute, causing Thomas to lose his deposit on a commercial property. Pattern after pattern of financial manipulation, all carefully hidden behind the facade of success and generosity. I was not the first victim, I was just the latest. As painful as the confrontation was, it proved oddly healing. For the first time, I was not alone in seeing my parents clearly. Others had experienced their manipulation and selfishness. I was not crazy or ungrateful or disrespectful for standing up to them. Before leaving the party, I made a decision. I accessed my banking app and unfroze one of their credit cards, the one with the lowest limit. Not out of forgiveness, but because continuing the freeze served no purpose beyond revenge. I had made my point. They had faced consequences. It was time to focus on my own healing rather than their punishment. The next day, I checked their account and saw they had immediately maxed out the unfrozen card with purchases from luxury retailers. No attempt to use the restored credit responsibly, no acknowledgement of the lesson, just the same old patterns. In my therapy session that week, I had a breakthrough. I cannot change them, I told Dr. Martin. No amount of consequences will make them take responsibility or treat me with respect. That is a powerful realization, she said. What does that mean for you going forward? It means I stop hoping for the parents I deserved and accept the reality of who they are. It means I set boundaries based on that reality, not on wishes or obligations. She nodded. And those boundaries would look like limited contact, no financial entanglements ever again, no expectations of apologies or change. That sounds healthy, Amanda. It is not about punishing them, it is about protecting yourself. The final test of my new boundaries came unexpectedly. My father's assistant called me at work. Miss Turner, your father listed you as a reference for a position with Meridian Investments. They would like to speak with you about his work ethic and character. I nearly laughed at the irony. After everything he expected me to vouch for his character, the reference call came the next day. I took it in a conference room away from curious ears. Miss Turner, I understand. Gerald Turner is your father, the hiring manager said. We are considering him for a senior advisory role and would appreciate your candid assessment. I could have destroyed him. One honest account of his financial manipulation would have ended his candidacy immediately. It would have been justified revenge for all he had done. Instead, I stuck to verifiable facts. My father has 30 years of experience in financial services. He is knowledgeable about market trends and investment strategies. He builds strong relationships with clients and has a record of meeting sales targets. All true statements. I left out his character flaws, his financial irresponsibility, his emotional manipulation, not to protect him, but to protect my own integrity. Thank you for your time, the hiring manager said. It is refreshing to get such a measured reference. I hung up feeling lighter somehow. I had been fair without compromising my values. I had chosen the high road not because my parents deserved it, but because I deserved to be the kind of person who does not use power to hurt others even when they have hurt me. 6 months after my parents kicked me out, I moved into a new apartment, a proper one-bedroom in a modern building, with a small balcony where I could grow herbs and flowers. The promotion to junior analyst had come through, bringing a 20% salary increase and more interesting work. For the first time in my life, I had created success on my own terms, not to please anyone else. My studio was filled with memories I had made by myself. The vintage coffee table Jasmine and I had refinished together, the bookshelf assembled during a furniture building party with new friends, the framed photo of my first solo hiking trip. Each item represented a choice I had made freely, not under pressure or scrutiny. I had not spoken directly to my parents in all that time. Through family updates, I knew they had recovered somewhat financially. My father had secured the position at Meridian Investments, taking a pay cut, but stabilizing their situation. They had sold their luxury SUV and downsized to more modest vehicles. The country club membership had been relinquished, a significant status loss in their social circle. I was sorting books on my new shelf when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing alone in the hallway. My heart raced. I considered pretending I was not home, but that would be avoidance, not boundary setting. With steady hands, I opened the door. "Amanda," she said, looking smaller somehow than I remembered. Her designer clothes had been replaced by simpler attire, her usually perfect manicure slightly chipped. "Mother," I replied, not inviting her in. "What brings you here? May I come in just for a few minutes?" Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. She entered cautiously, looking around my apartment with undisguised curiosity. "It is nice," she said, sounding surprised. "Very you." "Thank you. Why are you here?" She sat on the edge of my couch. "Your father does not know I came. He would be upset." Of course he would. Appearances mattered more than reconciliation. "I have been thinking about what happened," she continued. "With your birthday and the money and everything." I waited, not making it easier for her. "We were under a lot of financial pressure. Your father made some bad investments and I spent more than I should have. We panicked." It was not an apology, not really, but it was the closest thing to accountability I had ever heard from either of them. "That does not justify stealing my savings or making me homeless with 1 hour's notice," I said. She flinched. "No, it does not. We handled it badly." Again, not an apology, but an admission of wrongdoing, progress of a sort. "What do you want, Mother?" She twisted her hands in her lap. "I miss you. The family gatherings are not the same without you. Your grandmother asks about you constantly." "I still see Grandma Rose regularly. We have lunch every other week." "Oh," she seemed surprised. She never mentioned that. "Perhaps because she respects my privacy and boundaries." My mother nodded slowly. Could we start over somehow? Find a way to have some kind of relationship?" I considered her request carefully. "I am not interested in pretending nothing happened. I am not interested in returning to the dynamic we had before, where my worth depended on meeting impossible standards." "What are you interested in?" "Limited, respectful contact. No financial entanglements, no criticism disguised as concern, no comparisons to other people's children." That sounds very formal. "It is what I can offer right now." She nodded again, accepting the terms without argument. Another first. "Your father may take longer to come around. That is his choice. I am not chasing either of you for approval anymore." She stood to leave, pausing by the door. "For what it is worth, Amanda, I am proud of how you have handled all this. You have shown more maturity than we did." It was the closest thing to a genuine compliment she had ever given me, one based on character rather than achievement. I nodded, not quite ready to thank her for it, but acknowledging it nonetheless. After she left, I called Dr. Martin. My mother just visited, I told her. It was civil. How do you feel about that? Cautious. I do not believe people change fundamentally, but I think situations can change them superficially. Their financial downfall humbled them somewhat. And that is enough for you to consider some form of relationship. I thought about it. A limited one, yes, with firm boundaries. Not because they deserve it, but because cutting them off completely takes energy. I would rather direct elsewhere. That sounds like healing to me, Dr. Martin said, moving from reactive to proactive decisions. My final therapy session came a few weeks later. Dr. Martin and I agreed I had developed the tools I needed to maintain healthy boundaries and continue my growth independently. What would you say is the most important thing you have learned through this process? She asked as our time wound down. That my worth is not determined by other people's approval, I said without hesitation, and that financial security begins with emotional security, knowing I can take care of myself no matter what. Excellent insights. Any final thoughts as we conclude our work together? I smiled. I used to think revenge would heal me, watching my parents suffer consequences for how they treated me. And there was satisfaction in that, I will not lie. But the real freedom came from breaking the cycle, from refusing to use power to hurt others the way they hurt me. On my 25th birthday, 1 year after being kicked out, I hosted a small gathering at my apartment. Jasmine was there, along with other friends I had made over the year. Heather brought her new boyfriend. Grandma Rose made her famous apple pie. My parents were not invited. During the party, my phone rang my father's number. For a moment, I considered answering, wondering if perhaps he wanted to wish me happy birthday after all. Instead, I declined the call, but sent a text message. Cannot talk now. Having birthday celebration with friends. Will call tomorrow if you would like. Setting boundaries but leaving a door cracked open, not for their sake but for mine. Because healing is not about erasing the past or the people in it. It is about creating a present and future where those people no longer have the power to define your worth or determine your happiness. As my friends sang happy birthday and Jasmine presented a cake with sparkling candles, I realized that the revenge I had taken by freezing my parents' credit cards had served its purpose. It had shown them I was not powerless. It had given me back a sense of control when they had taken everything else. But it was the boundaries I set afterward that truly set me free. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who hurt you? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more authentic stories about overcoming family trauma and building a life on your own terms. Remember, sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into. Thank you for listening, and may you find the strength to set the boundaries you deserve in your own life.